Hello, dear viewers. Thank you for joining us on another show of the series, The Solution, where we're verifying Kabbalist Dr. social and economic approach. I have in the studio here Dr. Laitman and Igor Litvinov, an economic consultant. I want to mention that all our shows are available for download on our site, COIL. The previous shows are also there. Today, we want to continue speaking about the economic and social management of a country where the citizens are already in this process. We want to work with you as a team that's cracking the change and the ideological basis of the change with the hope to verify points where we need to. The first subject we're going to speak about is the public sector and the relations between that sector and the private sector toward the citizens of the country. Let's just give a brief intro what we're speaking about. The country supplies services to the citizen through various services in the public sector. These services have also been transferred over to the private sector in many cases. In the integral society, these lines are blurred because the citizens are living beyond a mutual responsibility, and the public sector sees itself as serving society. That's what we assume. And it's working for its good, and the society is good and has its faith. Will there be division like there is today between the private and public sectors? That's our first question. The public sector, if we introduce it like services that someone needs to give to citizens, I think all these services will be transferred to the company itself, to society itself. It will be public, meaning those people that will come out of the work market anyhow. And we already see that happening, and there will be more, by organizing themselves socially. It's like a business, just without a profit, like non-profit organizations. But they obligate each and every person, just like in a private business or a political business, that they'll work there. Not political, sorry, national. They'll work there for a few hours, and they'll supply everything that has to do with public service. Apart from places where we really need experts, special experts, development, etc., that they will remain in the hands of the country that will look after. I don't think there's any big differentiation between if you're working in the electric company, for example, not ours, the new one, or whether you're working serving the public in maintaining sanitary streets, providing citizens with other needs that they have. All these businesses will be a non-profit because we're speaking of each and every one receiving services that they deserve according to what the society determines for everyone, with the inclination that everyone will more or less have receive equally in accordance with what a person needs. And a person will work according to his profession, according to his inclination, in places that will be in accordance with that. It will either be the electric company, or a research institute, or a factory, or public organizations that are closer to serving the public. But at the end of the day, everyone will work in a manner. We're not speaking of profit, but the profit belongs to the society, and it all goes according to what the public determines. Apart from this point of private, public, what you just explained about profit, it's clear that everyone will work for the good of the general. You say that you see these services remaining in the hands of the government still? There's no profit to bigger or smaller people. Wherever somebody works, he will work. His fuel will be that he's serving the public. And everyone's enjoying his work. And his work is truly vital and positive and necessary. Otherwise, there's no need for it. It's not like now that you open a company, what else should I sell people? What else should I sell the citizens? So he'll buy and I'll enjoy it. The system is completely different, the method. Everyone will receive what they need for their existence, and that's enough, and nothing else. And everything else will remain for the good of the public. Not so much money, but police, army, of course they need to be, but there's not really a difference. If today, why do you have a big difference? That's why there's differences, but actually, this brings us to the next question that we wanted to verify. Many countries in the world, they always have this struggle between the public sector, the fatter public sector, and the smaller sector, the private sector. And one of the claims against the public sector is that it's blown up and not efficient economically because it's not measured according to its profits, so it's hard to measure it like you do a private company. There's also opposite examples, where if more services were in the public sector, then there would be better things. There's opinions in both ways. Our question is, in an integral society, will there be a preference to have a public sector, a wider public sector that provides all the services, or will there still be division to private bodies, or it doesn't matter, we're all one family? We have to reach one family. We're still talking about the transition phase, which is not a simple one, that no one has gone through. Therefore, we need to be very realistic. From the state of now, how much we can head toward organizations that will actually be necessary. And here I hope the crisis will help us, that it will clean, you know, like you throw water down and all the dirt comes out and you're left with what's necessary, with the things you can't do without. In the same way, the crisis, there's two things. The crisis will push us from behind, and education will push us forward. So we'll make like a filter for everything that society is doing. And after this filter that we're passing through, all the businesses will only be left with necessary businesses, and everything else will disappear. These two forces, the negative force of the crisis pushing from behind and the positive force of education pulling ahead, they will do it. They will do it slowly. And I don't think that we need to artificially close businesses and transfer these businesses to some new calculation that they're working on a voluntary basis and not getting a salary. The public isn't ready for that, but in accordance with how much the crisis in education work together on the situation in society and the citizen himself, in accordance with that, these things will apparently transition from a business calculation to a more civil, social calculation in a soft manner that will see that we're not losing anything from it. We know that businesses that don't have like an owner at the head and in charge of production and profit, etc., it all starts coming apart. Here we truly need to see, is our education enough to obligate a person to work even more, with even more energy and motivation and desire than he used to work for money? Because money, we're also learning that if he feels that everyone are concerned about him and he's living in a society that supplies him with everything he needs, and he won't receive more or less, that sort of disconnects, neutralizes his will to receive. And then he'll just have a will to bestow. The more he's encouraged, his inner education that he receives, to the extent that society advances in that, then in accordance with that, we can transition businesses from doing a money calculation, monetary calculation, to a calculation of self-respect and those urges, that a person will see that through this he's gaining from society satisfaction. And the main thing will be afterwards that he feels that he's contributing to society, that he's part of the integral network with everyone. And the more he contributes to this integral network, he'll feel power, fuel for himself, health, spiritual ascent, happiness. For him, it'll be like oxygen. The more you give, the more you feel you can breathe. And that will actually be his fuel. Otherwise, he'll feel empty. Can you describe this long process and not simple process? It depends on how much we identify in people that they're prepared to work with a new type of fuel. Instead of money, that same special power that he receives from society, collective wisdom, this new integral power that raises him up, that gives him the power of life. And today, when you identify this inclination in people, what kind of positive picture can we make today toward that person in the private sector, public sector, that will advance him forward, one step forward from where he is today? I didn't get it. We're describing a situation where a person in the private sector, public sectors, is replacing his monetary salary to other things. He's advancing towards spiritual things. And you said it depends on the inner readiness of people. We want a picture that will entice a person to make that step from where he is right now. This is through education, by him taking part in learning and the integral education that he's learning from his place and his area. It's people like him, and then he'll begin to feel how worth it is for them. What they feel during the learning period, during the workshops, the activation, they want to convey that feeling to looking after their whole area, what they felt, to their neighborhood, to their city. And this is how each and every person will react in this place. If we jump forward to the level of this one family, which is far off, but that same public sector, what picture do you see as them as one family? I see it, the exact necessary businesses for existence. There won't be anything imaginary like you have today, all kinds of businesses that we have no need for, but necessary businesses. But they will all work like they do now, and people will work according to hours and will calculate their production. So they won't do less than what we need. If we identify that they can't or they're not capable or don't want to work, then in accordance with that, we will apply pressure, social pressure, to such an extent that we can fine him somehow or the opposite, or give him some special promotion if he deserves it. There has to be motivations, an additional vacation, that we'll talk about him in the media. We have to do these things. Person must have incentives. People today don't live for the bills themselves, but for the pleasure that they can buy with the bills. So it has to be. It's just things will be clearer and closer to the body. The more I contribute, I myself will feel satisfaction because I'm receiving a spirit of life from the society, and also because in that I am receiving incentives. I'm getting a special medallion, or I get some special vacation, or they tell good things about me in school where my kids learn. We can find in a psychological manner things that really influence a person much more than money, because his pride, his effort, it's very important to him. But again, in necessary businesses, and people work there according to the calculation we have now, according to the current calculation. I think until money disappears, or the bills, or other signs of something that is worth something, that you go to every place and you want to buy this or this or that. If you want to exchange it, it'll last a long time, but gradually it's transitioning to many things that you receive from the free supply, free distribution, in accordance with what we all understand. So you won't need electricity more than usual, and water and gas. So this will be clean from the general calculation. We do everything in a much more... Kids also receive what they deserve. Books, toys, all those things. It will all be done gradually. And also the basic necessities that people need. Whether you like it or not, you need some basic basket for a month or for a week. You need to receive it. We have the ability to calculate what we can transfer to supply without making a calculation. There's also a quote here that relates to the issue of what we receive from society, the supply that we receive. You can see it on the screen. Bala Sulam writes in Kidvei Dor Acharon, it is desirable to correct so that there won't be any person claiming his needs from society, but only a select few that will research people's needs and distribute to each and every one of them. Public opinion will condemn the one claiming some rude need for himself, just like a thief today. Yes? Yes, it's a process. The society is sensitive and working about it because the main thing is education. It's not a matter if he'll consume more or less. His participation in connecting with us, because he's not doing it properly, he's stopping us from advancing spiritually, and that's why we're looking after this. If he wastes a bit more or less, it's not really the problem. If we waste a lot more, his participation our entire lives altogether have to be directed so that we'll connect more, because the connection between us, we discover a special force like collective intelligence we discover today. We discover a special spirit of life. And that's the actually greatest salary. That's what we need to look after, that we're all in one boat together, and that we won't have rude people like that. That's why we're concerned, actually. Here, the society, and also how we apply pressure. There's a question from the side of the citizen. How will he take this most balanced basket? That's what he says, that there will be people, like you fill out a form. Today it's simple, you can do it on the internet. This is what I need for next week or whatever. And the week after that, there's grandmother's holiday, birthday, so I have to buy a few more things. Or you go and take it, or they bring it to your home. Or you take it from the storage warehouse. The supermarkets, doesn't matter. I don't think we need to see it like something very distant from what's happening today. Just the issue is that it will be a more equal supply gradually, clean of all those things that we have no need for. We'll have basic necessities, or let's say it'll be easier to digest rational, and that everyone will have such an ability. Today, it's a change of attitude, but I think the person supplying the services and products, he will go through a similar transition. What Guy said before, that the efficiency of the industry is the profit, bottom line. Whoever is not profitable finds himself outside. Here it also has to be the same. We don't want to have businesses that are working on empty air, that will give us water that's 10 times more valuable than today, because they're working without any calculation. Of course not, but in accordance with how we can replace money, profit. If each thing's worth it, make a proper calculation, like good owners. If we can transfer this to lines where a person is educated in integral education, he's really concerned, if it's up to me, can I save money for the people or not? The public opinion must be such that it will pressure me so that I'll try to save in my work, and I'll give the best expertise for the good of the society at the end of the day. In continuation of this, in the integral education, the public sector will also have to supply these rational necessities. You don't need to call it the public sector or private sector. There's somebody. Will it still work according to money, salary, and everything we have now or not? First of all, I think that the problem is that has to be solved is that we, either through the crisis or through education or both, but we're going down from everything we have now to a rational life. First of all, and this is the question, either the crisis will do it in a very sharp, unpleasant manner, in a collapse of systems, bankruptcy, or we, through education, will get through it in a softer way. That we'll still want to get rid of all kinds of things that are just burning up or that we don't really have a need for. I'm continuing with the question toward that same organization today that's in charge of supplying our needs, the public sector. The main claim is that those same clerks that sit there, they don't put the good of the people in their best interest, but rather their personal interest. What personal interest can they have? That's the claim. Today it's clear. It's more salary, more vacation. It's clear what they have. And to sit and do nothing. We see it, and they have committees and monopolies. But if there's nothing to profit from, what will you do? If gradually the gaps in the salaries in status, if they go down more and more and get to an equal place, then what can happen here? That's exactly our question. Our questions are directed at the new situation. The system today is very tough, very bureaucratic, and the citizens get bad options. How will the public sector promise the private people their needs in the integral system? First of all, there has to be people who work on a voluntary basis. They don't get salary. They don't get any benefits more than others. They don't belong to some party because there are no parties. What do they get out of being there? They're there to make calculations. What do they need to supply to the public? And that's it. It's not a blown up bureaucracy or things that they don't know what to do with themselves, but it's like an accountant, how to supply to everyone. And they're actually suppliers at the end of the day. So apart from checking what each one needs and making these calculations, they don't have anything else to do. And they can also use things for their own good. That's not clear. Nowadays, it's connected to all kinds of conflicts and connected to public parties. But the moment it's not connected to money or control, if I work in the most simple work, I might get filling, inner filling, high inner filling, and at home, I have the same things as everyone. Then what's the difference here? There's none. Altogether, if I even receive some premium, they give me another week or two vacation for the family. Then for myself and him, the question is, what do you have more than others? That you keep or you act in some other way? Today it's clear. Today it's clear. They said the resources themselves. You're saying we need to exchange the motivation, the incentives. Yes, but apart from that, the problem is that we need to see how at the end of the day, the fact that there will be more and more services switching over to public organizations, then the society will less and less be in need of these clerks. And then gradually, they'll see the interdependence. Like today, there's private nurseries, private schools, private education, many things that are already there's not really independence on those same clerks. How will it happen? I don't think it can be There has to be a crisis. There has to be a crisis and education together. You're actually asking me, how will you change the regime? With all these quantities of clerks, with all these perks and benefits, with the control that they have permanent jobs. I think that the public, by transitioning, by going through the integral education, they'll be able to get into the government and begin to add intelligence. We see that this approach is still there. In all the regimes, in all places, it's a matter of there can be riots, there can be great meetings, there can be resistance by the people. It's possible to do that in a soft, correct manner. I don't think it's impossible. We usually say that a person is part of the general system or part of nature, as we say, and this network is in balance, and a person's role on the basis of the crisis and the integral education is to reach some balance with nature because we're unbalanced. The question is the balanced network. Is there one person planning everything and supervising everything? I'm asking from the side of the economy. We're planning the economy of tomorrow. Will there be a few private organizations that each participant will know how to work for the good of the entire network? If we check it against the general network, will they be together? Will they be separate? Will they work together or separate? It depends which place we are in the process, because we need to go through a special process from a completely capitalistic state to an integral state. And here the process is long and varied. It appears to me that the most simplest thing, if we're talking about our holy land here, that here it will be regional. The municipalities or regions that are more or less take upon themselves that the public, according to the extent of the integral education that it receives, that they're willing to deal with themselves. And in each municipality, you also have branches of Social Security and all those services. The government, the local government, that's part of the general government. That in each country there's still the old laws. There's already the new laws in all kinds of places in the country, at all levels of innovation. It depends on each sector. And the citizens are starting to determine these things. So a situation, and then according to this, you can take an example how we can begin from the local government, how we change its approach, its systems with the municipality, with everything that there is there, how we more and more take the social power, and then you can make an example how we change it throughout the country, from downward, upward, from the municipalities. That's what's actually taking us out of the centralized model. You're talking about a grassroots model that'll come from below. That's the healthiest. Here, you're, of course, not making mistakes. You're not making artificial steps with it maybe have no foundation or some mistake. But rather, if it exists, you make it bigger and bigger. And this is how you advance. In other words, the demands will rise upward and receive an answer based on the needs of the system. If we see in a city like Petach Tikva that everything's successful, and the nursery schools and families, all kinds of public organizations and systems work in a correct, good way, and the saving on water and sanitation, and we hear from the police how much less crime there is, and arguing. We see that the divorce in the region is less. The success of kids in school, we'll hear from the Ministry of Education, etc., etc. So it's an example. You can't ignore this. So we can bring it to everyone and show what's happening here. Why did it happen? Because of the integral education. And because this education, the more we could put it into all kinds of branches that we can use, how much it adds. And then we can count it in money. Electricity, sanitation, water, all kinds of things, crime. We have to count it with something, just to show everyone how worth it is. The calculation remains. Just after all the calculations, we have to make sure what's happening now. What are they screaming about? What's with the middle class? The lowest class we're no longer concerned with. It's like dead. There's nothing we can do. You understand? We're talking about how we need to raise these people up from downward upward, and how we can minimize from upward downward. How we're starting to round out all these citizens with the elderly homes and everything. And then you begin to see these people, but only on the condition that they receive satisfaction. That they receive satisfaction from their inner filling. It can't be done quickly, but only always by strengthening the integral education. And then, of course, from this example, you can switch to all the rest of the places. You have places that will be very happy to achieve this. Usually where the middle class is less than that, much less than that. In developing areas, and there's places where it will be difficult for them. Say Jerusalem or something, where there's a subject. I want to go back to the issue of the public sector. An issue that you spoke of before is workers coming together, unionizing. The question is, in the integral society, will there be a place for unions like the Histadrut that we have in Israel? And what will be their role toward workers and the rest of society? I don't think the Histadrut, the way it's working today, it's a political organization that's thinking about itself, its party, its place in the government, how much they have, and all their clerks, etc. Thousands and thousands. I don't think it has anything to do with it, but of course, not those bodies. I think that the general social organization has to be has to be a system where the histadrut, where the connection between everyone actually exists inside society itself. And that's it. The question is there some type of organization or department somewhere that's concerned with the good of everyone, the connection between everyone? I think that it has to be not the histadrut like we understand now, but rather it has to be like a parliament of the people. Let's say that same assembly, the Knesset. I don't want to call it the same name. Some Sanhedria, where really wise people sit there who feel through the strong education that they received how to truly lead the people. And this has to do there's nothing to do with these histadrut, these or those, but together they actually decide about all the systems, because the system of education of the people and concern for all its needs, it has to be one and the same. You can't have one without the other. I don't think it can be like today. It's all together. It's based on interests, the Medicare or this type or that type or another. We understand that it all comes to us from the past, from all the division of the country to right and left. Before we go to the next subject of regulation, we have a simulation. Still, we're in the public sector. Let's say we're organizational consultants for the integral education, and we're meeting with a minister that's in charge of the social sector in a country. And he's telling us that the public sector is blown up, low performance, it only looks after itself, as we know today. And the workers are very tight, and on the other hand, they say that if they hurt the workers, there'll be strikes, etc. So what would you say to them? What would we say to those people? How would we solve the situation according to the integral education? He's talking about a situation where the public sector is blown up, low performance, only looking after itself. The workers are very united. You can't hit them directly because there'll be strikes, and then the government will have to give in, like the situation we have now. And we're coming like consultants of the integral education approach. We need to talk to them, and we need to present them with a plan. What would we say? How would they solve the situation? What would we advise them? We're not telling them that we're going to change the situation. Nothing. Otherwise, no one will accept you. God forbid. We're coming to them only to explain to them how we can be more suited to the new stage that is being revealed in society, in general, in humanity. From the side of nature, external nature, how we see it's all closing in more and more. The ecology and all those things, climate changes, loss of many kinds of species. That's really threatening us, that we won't have what to eat, on the one hand, and also according to a person's inner nature, that a person becomes egoistic, very distant from one another, and lazy. It's hard to find incentives, motivation to activate him. He's far from his family. He can't hold a family for more than 10 or 15 years. He doesn't care about anything, even his kids, parents, etc. We explain to them what's happening, the crisis, the external crisis and the internal crisis. And why is this crisis as a result that we're discovering also from the side of science that we're in a network, a general network. And in this general network, whether we like it or not, we're discovering more and more each day. And if we are definitely connected inside the network, and we have these inclinations, like I said, egoistic and etc., how can we get along? We can't. Therefore, our only salvation is to suit ourselves to the same network that's becoming revealed. How will we reach it? There's a certain thread, let's say, through which we can be more connected, more complementing one another. And then we'll feel abundance and not crisis, convenient and not screaming and all kinds of terrible acts happening in families and in the streets, etc. We need to be in balance with nature. That's a general law of nature. I'm looking at an entire system of study, and afterward activating them in workshops and dialogue, teach them how to connect with one another. This we don't have at all. And then we say to them, talk to them only about the profit, not that they need to change. What can you profit from us treating you? You can profit a better mood, health, less pressure at home, in the family, profit in the workplace, more efficiency, etc. Only the good things. And you begin working with them, and then when they start to understand that it's worth it for them to be connected together, and through the workshops and everything, they truly start to get closer to one another, they become friendlier, they begin to feel how much it puts them in a better mood, even though there'll always be these egoistic jumps, but with them it's less. We need to understand there's people that have a special inclination to spirituality, and there's a huge inner conflict. The people that are regular people, 99.9% of the population, it's really like that. For them, there's nothing like that. There won't be jumps, ups and downs, struggles with themselves inside that their ego is resisting. They'll go with their ego, along with it. They'll understand that it's for their own good. I'm getting a good mood, I'm saving, it'll be easier for me at work, I'm going along, singing to myself, I'm passing time happily. It's better than struggling all the time and being like, I want to kill everyone. And I'll be like that to them, and they'll be like that to me. They begin to feel that it will add to their lives. So we need to understand that for them, there's no struggle. They will go forward in a soft manner. And then they will understand that truly we don't have any need for all kinds of systems and factories, systems in the city, that this blown up police, the road will suddenly save more in water, electricity, public expenses will go down, and also inside the homes. We'll begin to feel that it adds a lot to us, as if we open new sources of energy, of money, of power. And that's it. Courses for kids, for free, all kinds of things. Only in this manner, only in a soft, pleasant manner, not to break anything. And through that, we'll feel how much we don't need some organization or office or part of the services of the government. We don't need them. The reason why we presented this situation And even if we leave them, what will happen? People are sitting in some municipality, let's say, blown up 4-5 times than what it needs to be. I once heard, I was in dialogue with the municipality of New York. It's as if what are you talking about, Jerusalem? I think New York municipality is the same as Jerusalem. There's 20 million, and here there's 500,000 citizens. What do I want to say? Even though those people are sitting there, they're sitting. First of all, gradually, we clean out these places. They go out to pension. We don't take new people because we don't feel in need. But in the meantime, while they're sitting there, they're getting the same salary as everyone. They're getting the same benefits as everyone. Let them sit there. Through education, they will feel that they can really add something. So let them do something. There's no problem if you bring all these people to general benefits equal to everyone. If they get the same as everyone, and according to truly good attitude toward the public, respect, and then who cares? Let them sit there in the municipality, more 100 people that we don't need. But I can use them in some place in the public sector in a different manner, more efficient manner. It's possible. But it depends on education. How much you'll educate them more, and they'll see that they're not doing anything, then he'll get out of there himself, then gradually. Making the salary as equal as possible and give them the integral education, then you'll also reach here a situation that gradually cleans itself. You don't need sharp acts, dramatic acts. The reason that we presented this situation is that our feeling is that those same people that, for example, in the electric company or the ports, they're the heart, the stone of heart, the heart of stone. They profit the most. You can't touch them. All the citizens say there's no proportion over their conditions that they work under. It's true. It's because they need to get together. Oh, they're unionized, sorry. And they look after a narrow place that they can close it, and then the whole country will feel it. It's true, but it's a problem of policy. You can't break it from above. You can't. I don't think it's possible. I see that they're trying through all kinds of things, but it's a problem. I'm not a politician. I don't understand these systems. I don't understand this whole game, and I don't want to understand it. I understand that if we have to do it by force, then it can only be a dictator that someone strong comes and says, from this moment forward, he determines everything, and he sends the army in, and that's it. But in this manner, it's clear that we won't see good results. But if you're talking about organizations like the electric company and ports, the trains, there's no shortage of organizations. We see them. The problem is, I think that it's just education. Just education. There's nothing else. What else can you do? If you have other options, please. Our line, our explanation is not to head to them at all because there's no deficiency there. After you make the society healthy, after most of the country understands where we're heading towards a connection and they see them as like a cancer in a healthy body, then you'll be able to fight against them. Then they won't be able to deal with you because the whole country will be against them. So whatever you do, the entire people will be along with you. But the parties and everything, there's no justification. Everything is towards someone profiting from it. Some parties or organizations, you first of all need to get a social agreement that the society will see them, that we're all together and they're against us. And they're the opposite. Today we're already seeing this situation that they have a very negative attitude to those same frameworks, and the problem is exactly at the point where they're close to parties and through the political channels they're manipulating the economy. The problem is that you can't do anything because you also can't go to the Supreme Court, but God knows what games there are there. I don't understand it, but it's all from I have nothing to suggest except dictatorship or education, one or the other. Before we finish, what you presented, it's exactly what we're explaining, that we need to go to others, and through the influence of the environment, they will change at the end. You described the process of war. We thought, that the people are against us. You can't come together. Then you will be able to convey such laws discussions, social discussions, that the public will give you justification to do what the public needs, that those same laws, that same foundation that there is, that social foundation will be in the same organizations and the same businesses as in the ports. But it's if you have the public foundation outside of them. Before that, you can't do anything. The moment we have this public foundation, you'll see a situation where they'll want to do it, or those same electric companies and everything. The minute we have a strong public foundation, will they want to join to be part of the process together? They'll allow our people to work inside there, to give them the integral education, and they'll change. They will not be able to be opposite to everyone. They can't. The hatred toward them, the rejection, revulsion, they won't be able to, through the government or their parties, they won't be able to do anything. If everyone's against them, they won't be able to. We reached the end of the show. Dear viewers, thank you for being with us in another interesting show. We're based on the economic and social approach of Bala Sulam. Thank you, Dr. Laitman. Thank you, Igor. We want to remind you that all the shows you can see on our site, kab.co.il. Next week, we will deal with regulation, and until then, all the best.